that working camp as they prepare to defend their Super Bowl championship from a year ago. The Eagles were a force to be reckoned with. Check your text, Stephen A. Last season, you have time. I'm reading for a while. Going 12-1 after the bye and storming through the playoffs on the back of Saquon Barkley's historic year. Saquon became the second player to win the rushing title, Offensive Player of the Year in a Super Bowl in the same season, while setting an NFL record with over 2,500 rush yards, including the playoffs. However, none of the previous 8 players to eclipse 2,000 yards in a season reached 1,500 yards in the following season. Okay, Kevin, does Saquon need another historic performance, bless you, to get back to the Super Bowl, for the Eagles to get back again?
I don't think there's a magic number he has to hit. It doesn't have to be 2,000 yards, but he needs to be as dominant as he was last year. 36% of the Eagles' yards last year were Saquon Barkley. He broke the record, including playoffs, for 60-yard touchdown runs. RC, you know this. Yeah. You're not supposed to have 60-yard runs in the NFL. That's a college thing. That's a high school thing. So for me, I'm looking at this offense. You know, the way I think team builders look at offenses as Jenga pieces. What piece can you bring out? Okay, it's still going to stand. It's still going to stand.
I love Jenga.
Saquon, to me, you take him out, and a lot of things flow from there. The way that the Eagles' passing game is defended, the way, you know, I was stunned to see it had been 9 years since anybody had more yards before contact last year than Saquon Barkley. What that tells me is the Eagles' offensive line does its job. They get people out of the way, and then Saquon hits those holes really fast. So yes, they need Saquon Barkley in his best form. And by the way, 11 instances last year where Saquon Barkley was tackled at the 1-yard line. Jalen Hurts scored the touchdown with the push after. How about a couple of those, Jalen, for Saquon? Just hook him up a little bit with a couple goal line carries.
Fair enough. S.A.?
You might be right, Kev. Here's what I would tell you, though. We got to ask ourselves this question. If Saquon is struggling, what kind of pressure does that put on Jalen to throw the ball? He's got the weapons in Brown. He's got the weapons in Devontae Smith, got at those guys. I get that part. But what kind of pressure does that put on him, and can he respond? I think he can respond. I think he's shown that he can respond. And because I have faith in Jalen Hurts, it's not that Saquon Barkley needs to wet the bed and all of a sudden just nosedive from the kind of season that he had last year. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he goes from 2,005 yards rushing to 1,300. Can the Eagles still win? Can they still get it done? My answer is going to be yes. And that's why I would say to you, they don't need an historic season from Saquon. The operative word is historic. He can nosedive, but they don't need an historic season from him in order to win.
I mean, you got to think about this, right? Before Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders had a career year in Philadelphia. Then DeAndre Swift did the same. And now Saquon, because he has that extra gear, he has that extra level of elusiveness in the open field, he can produce those 60-yard runs that are blocked up for 7, that are blocked up for 8. Saquon Barkley, if healthy, is going to do that same sort of thing next year. But he doesn't need to rush to the tune of 2,000 yards. What he needs to continue to do is be a threat to do so. You still need to say, okay, running the football is going to be where this offense starts. It's going to be the primary thing that we focus on and the priority headed into every week. But we saw what the Kansas City defense and Steve Spagnuolo decided to do. Saquon Barkley will not beat us. So what did we see? We saw one-on-ones on the outside with A.J. Brown. We saw one-on-ones on the outside with Devontae Smith. And we also saw that Jalen Hurts, in those situations, can capitalize on pushing the football down the field, not to mention the way Jalen Hurts uses his legs. Saquon Barkley still needs to be Saquon Barkley, which to me is the top tier of running backs in this league behind the Philadelphia Eagles line of scrimmage. But we don't need to see the same thing statistically from him, because I just don't believe you can ask for that year after year after year from a running back.
Let's leave it there.
Not long, but what are you watching from him in terms of progress?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, Brandon. I actually did some research. Do you know that Trey Lance is being drafted number 3 overall in the 21 draft? He's only played in 12 regular season games. The number 3 overall pick from the 21 draft, 12 total games throughout the regular season. And half of that came his rookie year. in mop-up duty, except for that Week 18 matchup versus the Texans, where he looked kind of good. Going into the draft, a lot of people wondered what his upside would be like because he didn't have a lot of experience. They kind of compared him to what Anthony Richardson was, a guy that has high upside but just needs the reps. Well, he hasn't had the reps. And for him, it's all about, can he go out there and play complementary football, right? Not turn it over. It's kind of like poetic justice because he's playing for the Chargers right now. Well, Brandon, we go back to last year where he was playing for your Dallas Cowboys. And in the last preseason game, he threw 5 interceptions with the team that he's playing for right now. So to me right now, if you're Trey Lance, it's not about trying to resurrect your career to be a starting quarterback. You have to prove that you're a viable quarterback in the NFL, that teams can depend on you. I think there's something to be said that the Chargers' #2 backup, Taylor Heineke, is not playing in this game. So Jim Harbaugh is giving you an opportunity to show what you can do. It's your job to go out there, put your best foot forward, and show the rest of the NFL, I am a viable quarterback in the NFL.
So Trey's not the only one when it comes to trying to prove that he can be a viable quarterback. DJ Uyunglele, of course, a rookie coming into this one, but his path is definitely diverted about 3 or 5 different times in college football. So this is a rookie coming in. You need to see what he can do in learning the system, also commanding a group of men. What do you expect to see from DJ?
Yeah, Brandon, reclamation projects, right? That's what this segment should be called because Jim Harbaugh has done a really good job in this past. We see a guy like Colin Kaepernick who has the similar skill set to DJU and Trey Lance. And you talked about it. DJU's kind of moved around in college football. Came out, Clemson, there was a lot of hype behind him. Looked good his freshman year, ends up going to Oregon State, looked good there, then goes to Florida State, and it kind of all falls apart. So he's trying to resurrect himself. As a rookie, it's more specifically as a quarterback and a rookie, it's all about doing the operation right? Getting the call from the offensive coordinator, relaying that in the huddle because you got to think about it, Brandon. A lot of these quarterbacks coming from college, a lot of huddle. They didn't really huddle up. Everything was spread. So, like, the operation, getting that down pat, again, getting the call from the offensive coordinator, relaying it properly to your team, and then making sure everybody's lined up properly. Then it's all about going through your progressions and getting the ball into your playmakers' hands. Don't live outside yourself. Play within the offense. And yes, you do have that athletic ability. If things break down, take off, right? Don't be back there patting the ball, burping the baby. Go through your progressions, get the ball out of your hands, and if things break down, then you take off. That's what I'm looking for DJU tonight.
Burping the baby. I'm still at this football season. I'm still in that. You can't take that back. When it comes to running back there, Marion Hampton, probably the best name when it comes to running back. Hampton in, hello, it just makes sense. He was a top 3 back coming into the draft there. He's mentioned that this summer he wants to show that he's a franchise player. We hear that, but I want to talk about fantasy. Is he a guy that we should keep tabs on if we're thinking about that RB1, RB2?
Without a doubt. Brandon, there's a reason why the Chargers took him in the first round, even though they had signed Najee Harris. And luckily for them, or unluckily for Najee Harris, he had a firework incident, and he hasn't really been able to practice. So right now, Marion Hampton is running back 1. If you know anything about Jim Harbaugh, they like to run the pill, and you see Omarion Hampton, his rankings in college football over the last 2 years, 2nd in rush yards, tied 7th in rushing touchdowns, and tackles avoided, tied 3rd. And that's the one thing I want to focus in on because he's 6 foot, 220 pounds, but he ran a sub 4.4. So, Brandon, when he gets to the second level, he's not just looking to run you over. He's looking to run by you and get to the house. You saw it right there. Again, top 10 in rushing touchdowns, a lot of breakaway touchdowns at North Carolina over the last 2 years for Omarion Hampton. So, definitely, when it comes to fantasy, because of the injury to Najee Harris, I would definitely key in on Omarion Hampton because, one, the offense is predicated around the run game, and that's what his skill set is, being able to run in between the tackles, but then also catch the ball out of the backfield. And when he gets to the second level, he's out of there.
With that speed, he could be the explosive back the Chargers were hoping to have, of course, heading into this season. Give me a few guys under the radar that's piquing your interest that you want to literally highlight for us here heading into this game.
Yeah, we talked about the quarterbacks for the Chargers. I'm going to highlight a few other players. Trayvon Morris-Brash is an outside linebacker for the Chargers. You see his name at the bottom. He's vying for that number 3, maybe 4 spot outside of Tui. At the outside linebacker position, Jamari Caldwell, who they took in the draft, they needed a bigger nose tackle that can really help them in the run game. And Trey Harris, he's an interesting prospect. I believe they took him in the 2nd round. Yes, they have Quentin Johnson, they had Lab McConkey on the outside, but Trey Harris in college football was, I believe, in the top 5 in win percentage in regards to man coverage and zone coverage. So Brandon, he just knows how